Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. It's the Capitalgpt podcast with your host Jared Naidu. Today I'm joined with Terence Ronald, as I know him as Mr. T. He's a CEO and founder of VALT Financial Literacy, and he's basically going to tell us about his story, tell us everything about him. But he also has a financial background, 18 years of experience in finance. Yeah, Mr. T, anything else that I've left out from your experiences in finance? Yeah, let us know.
Hi, Jared. Yeah, thanks for having me. And no, I think you've done a great job. Yeah, I think 18 years in the financial services does cover a lot
Yeah,
around finances. Yeah, happy to be on here.
yeah. I think the first question is Volt is a financial literacy training thing, right? You guys have you guys are set up in DHS, which is Durban High School. You guys have been there for about 3 to 4 years, I would say. Uh, and you guys have been teaching kids how to manage their finances. Uh, and you basically emerge from what my understanding and being a part of Volt. If you guys don't know, I've been part of Volt from the early doors as well. You guys have I've worked with these teens. You worked with other businesses. What has been your best experience? I think teaching young kids about financial literacy.
I think for me, just to backtrack a little bit, why do we kick off Vault? From my experience in 18 years, that we found that the current working class
Yeah.
were over indebted. They had poor management skills. They had bad spending habits.
Yes.
Uh, and I said, the only way we're going to change the future if we start the change now. The
Yeah.
change now is getting the young teens to start valuing
Yes.
money.
Yes.
And I think so. Hence why we started the program. How do we educate the students of today to make sure there's a brighter future in the
Yeah.
next 10 to 15 years from now?
Yes.
That's where it started from. So, how do we? It's more. How do we change that narrative?
Yes.
Now, for our parents, just always bought things on hire purchase.
Yes.
Everything in that house, in that kitchen, in that bathroom
Yeah.
was bought on purchase. How do we change that thought?
Yes.
A lot of the things we teach them how to save to purchase,
Yes.
rather to go into unnecessary debt.
Yes.
And we've seen the youth of today, the teenagers in high schools, how that thinking has shifted, and we
Yes.
are seeing positive results.
Yes.
When kids at the age of 18, 19 are sitting with 20 to 30,000 K in their bank account.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
and you think, wow, where did it come from? We're just
Yes.
changing bad habits.
Yeah, man.
If I can just expand a little bit, what are those bad habits?
Yeah.
Mom, I don't want a splashy birthday. Give me the cash.
Yeah.
Don't buy me presents. Give me the cash.
You're right.
And what they're doing with that cash is that they're investing it.
Yeah.
One of the days of branded clothing.
Yeah.
How can I spend minimal on a tacky, and
Yes.
how can I bank majority into savings,
Yes.
into investment, into stocks? So whatever this fancy these kids are want
Yeah.
to go into, so that creates the liquidity for them to create the wealth.
100%. 100%. I think just based on what you're saying, I'm just thinking 20 years ago, kids these like at that age, at 18, 19, like 20 years ago, like 22, like 2000s, they weren't thinking of investing in stocks. They weren't thinking of putting money into the JSE or the US stock market. What do you think the cause of that is? Of kids like, okay, let's try and put money into the stock market if we need to, or S&P 500. What do you think that is?
I think from my experience, Jared, a lot of that comes through the lack of education.
Mm.
I don't think our schools' curriculums are designed to educate kids to that level.
Yes.
We do business studies, we do accounting, but no one teaches them how to invest 100 Rand or $50 a month. The basic of investing,
Yeah.
and it's not our school curriculum. And I think hence why it's a pleasure for us to go into these schools, to partner with schools,
Yeah.
to say, let's take that off your shoulders and let's come in there with these curriculums.
Yes.
Just equip the teen for the working world. Once he gets out of high school and gets out of university, that young person needs to be prepared
Yes.
when he starts to earn an income. And how do we create the habit? We create the habit before they earn. And
Yeah.
that's the key. That's the key of what I try to do at Vault is how do
Yeah.
we create the habit before
Yeah.
money comes into their hands? And I think that's shown such a positive outcome
100%.
to teens that are now in first year, second year university that are seeing that financial benefit.
Yes.
So
100%.
education is absolutely crucial to shifting that mindset.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because I've had two guests on prior to you, and the conversation, I mean, the question that I've asked is, I've asked, how do you think that, let's example, like a teenager or someone that's young that wants to start making money, and the both of them gave the answer of education and teaching, a learning a new skill, or learning how to make money, learning how to invest and stuff. And I think, like you're saying, education is so crucial, especially amongst South Africans, where there's a lack of opportunity. We've addressed that. There's a lack of opportunity amongst our youth, and the only way that we can move forward is education. And even with a small salary, I've seen clips online where people manage with a little, like a very small salary, but they manage their household and they still manage to save. Um, Based off a budget. How crucial do you think a budget is in today's day and age? And speak to those people that also say, I make too less money to have a budget.
I always say a budget is like a foundation of a house.
Yeah,
If you don't have that foundation, it's going to crack at some point.
yeah,
You know, and same with finances. If you don't have a budget, you're gonna head up into financial trouble down the
yeah,
line.
yeah.
And I've always said this is not about the amount you earn.
Mm,
It's the amount you try to save.
yes,
And I know we are in a country people do earn very little, and I always go back to the point to an individual that was unemployed for 5 years.
mm,
How did he manage his lifestyle for 5 years?
yeah,
What sacrifices did he have to make? And he had no income.
yes,
So now he lands an income of 8,000 Rand a month.
mm,
What changes?
yes,
Yes, he has to be more responsible. I agree.
yeah,
What are those responsibilities? Yes, maybe for accommodation, maybe to contribute for food,
yeah,
and nothing much. So, it's that little that you have.
yes,
Person creates the habit
mm,
of saving and investing.
yeah,
That's when you start to see the benefit of that.
yeah,
And I think as South Africans, we, including myself, back in the days, we always come with excuses.
yeah,
But if you look at the amount of money we spend on unnecessary things,
mm,
it's frightening.
yeah,
And I was just at the thought that struck me yesterday. If we go back to the transition from apartheid into democracy,
yes,
it's about 31 years old. If you take a guy that is 60 today, he was 30 back then.
yes,
And the reason why this came out from a conversation from a 61-year-old,
right,
he's still moaning and groaning 30 years later.
yeah,
Instead of saying, I'm going to commit to 1,000 Rand a month 30 years ago.
okay, yeah,
Watch that compound.
yes,
So I think we all come with excuses. We underprivileged. We are affected by apartheid. I agree with all that. I'm not saying we haven't gone through that.
yes,
But end of the day, you've got to wake up. You've got to realize you're going to get old one day. You're going to go into retirement one day. The government is not going to be there.
yeah, yeah,
The moaning and the groaning of the past is not around. You got to get up and make this happen for yourself.
yeah,
Over your tea parties and your coffee parties, you can moan and groan, but there's a reality. The sun will rise tomorrow. You'll see through another day. Next month, the sun will rise again. What are you going to do? So I think it's about that sacrificial decision. If you really want to live a better life, a better quality of life, it comes with sacrifice. Like a person wants to have a good physique, a good body, goes to the gym. He's consistent, he's regular, he changes his diet, he makes sacrifices. And same with wealth. If you want to create wealth, You're going to say no to many dinners, going out for dinners. You're going to say to certain parties that you might want to attend or don't want to go that costs. And I think these are real issues. If we as South Africans can get up today and says, I'm going to make these sacrifices, and I'm going to invest. I'm going to create the liquidity to invest. And that comes with a hell of a lot of discipline,
Yeah.
especially the underprivileged South Africans. It comes with a hell of a lot of discipline. And yeah, that's what we need to get to.
Yeah, it's such a good answer, I think. Like what you said, like regardless of what your circumstances, the sun's gonna get up tomorrow. No one's gonna come and save you, and it's again do what you can with what you have. Do what like the cards that you dealt, you gotta make use of it. You gotta bluff your way. You gotta do something. You have bad cards, you gotta do something with it rather than just folding. Um, no, 100%. I totally agree on that. Um, I think we've spoken about teens investing and stuff. Do you still think that the adults, the 20-year-olds, the 30-year-olds, the 40-year-olds, even the 50, 60-year-olds, do you think there's still time for them to change their finances around? Say, I've been in debt for so many years. I have no idea how to get out of it. Do you think there is a turnaround for that? And do you think education is also a role in that, in helping these people get out of debt and then maybe get into investment? Because people could be, I'm in debt, I can't even invest, so it's again that. And you said we spoke earlier about people being in debt and people splurging. Um, I think so. Do you think education is a vital role in people getting out of debt?
Yeah, I've seen since we've started Vault since 2018 and
Yes.
engaging with clients, married couples, older single individuals, families come out of debt.
Yeah.
And that's such a time to celebrate. Some of them came out of debt within 3 years.
Wow.
Some of them came out of debt within 5. I think the maximum was 6 years.
Yeah.
And the huge amounts of monies, like
Yeah.
250, 80K sitting in debt.
Yeah.
For me, when I look at debt, I don't think anyone chooses to go into debt. We don't get up one
Yeah.
morning and says, I'm going into debt today. Circumstances
Yeah.
forces you into that. And it could be a basic thing, like I want to send my son to high school to educate him. You'll take a study loan. A kid wants to study, become a doctor or a lawyer. We take loans, which are, for me, it's a good kind of debt. You're doing it for a good purpose, there's a good
An
cause, there's a
investment.
need for it. It's an investment, absolute investment into the child's future, and hoping one day when he gets to work and starts to repay that. But I'm more concerned about the poor debt decisions we make. So
Yes.
you can come out of that debt. It's like going into a rehab center, Jared. Some
Yeah.
of us are addicts to poor purchasing.
Yeah.
We thrive on buying and buying and buying and buying. I laugh at this, and I just laugh at this heyday sales and Black Fridays, what the
Yeah.
case might be. You know, Come on now, you've got 3 TVs at home. Why do you need to go buy a TV because it's going at 50% discount?
What do you
It's not
think?
a
What do you think what do you think the cause of that is? What do you think the psychological part of it is? Do you think it's the
thing.
lack
I
of
think
prior to it, or do you think it's the desire for more and to show people that hey, I have a better more than you, I'm better than
I
you.
think it's it's a combination of greed
Yes.
and being materialistic.
Mm.
You know, who watches on 4 TVs at any given point? Anyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's wrong with your standard normal kettle in the kitchen you've had for 5 years? No problem. Now you're going to buy a Smig. It's going on a 50%. Now, where does that come from?
Yes.
And I think this is the thinking I'm talking about.
Do you
How
not
habits don't.
you don't think it's also
Yeah.
generational? I think so. So you also see, so for example, like growing up for me growing up as a like in family and household and stuff, not specifically my family, but seeing other families and people like that, it's always about showboating or like I have something better than the next person. Um, So how do you deal with that? Because I'm sure there's a lot of families that go through it amongst the Africans because I think it comes from the root of again the from generational where people had a lack of, I think because they had a lack of it and they always try to be better than the next person than trying to grow their family and stuff. So I think that was passed down and continue to be passed down. And I think it's breaking that generational mindset of saying, listen, we need to be better than the next our family or neighbor, or whatever, and let's just try and be better as a family financially, not being in debt. Let's build wealth. And I think we misuse the motivation of them, I would say.
Yeah, I think I mean you use the right word, the wealth. I think
Yeah.
when you measure somebody, I rather measure them by the amount of money that is sitting in their investments
Yes.
rather than sitting in their homes.
Yeah.
So I can I share a quick story with you. So I met with a young man, and he was moving into an apartment in Cape Town. Okay, from Johannesburg, moving to apartment in Cape Town. So he calls me. He says, "Mr. T, this is what I'm doing. I've got this apartment, and I'm moving into the apartment, and this is what it's going to cost me."
Yes.
So I sat him. I said, "Okay, right. Tell me what's going on." Okay, I said, "Okay, yes, you definitely need a bed. Okay, and you need probably a plate,
Yes.
a cup, a glass, and a set just for yourself." I said, "When you step into the flat, make sure
Yes.
you need everything that you need to survive and sustain yourself in living there." And then he came across to me and says, "But I need a couch. I need a dining room set. I need that." It went through a whole list of things. I said, "Hold it. Who do you need that for? Is it for you or for people to come to visit you?"
Yes.
He says, "Yes, for friends to come over." I says, "Let's change that around. Why are you buying for other people to come and enjoy? Why are you purchasing a couch at 10 grand for somebody else to come sit there behind there and watch the TV that you're paying for?"
Mm.
And I said, "No, tell them to carry those camp chairs. You're a young adult. I
Yeah.
mean, you're 20, what it was, 27. I said, "You're 27 years old. Get a beanbag."
Yeah.
And it then started to make sense to him. I says, "Go and buy a pack of paper plates from the store."
Yes.
It's that young generation. I understand if his grandparents were visiting and parents, and then yeah, but they were not. Even if they do, if even the grandparents, and this is the point, Jared, it's shifting the thinking. Even if mom and dad and grandparents are come to visit you in Cape Town,
Yes.
that's not going to happen every month.
Mm.
So you're going to spend 50,000 rand on furnishing something that what you thought would benefit is actually not happening.
Yeah.
I would rather save up the money over 6 months, invite parents over, put them up in a guest house or in a hotel, once off payment for a weekend, and you're
Yeah.
done. It's that thinking. So
Yeah.
sorry if I just laid on the point, but I
No,
think
no, you made a valid point. I'm just thinking as you mentioned, like just get a beanbag, get camp chairs. When I moved out when I was 20, I moved out with my best friend Mateo, and we shared a studio flat, and we got beds from obviously from our parents' place. So his bed was on one side of the studio, mine was the other side. Our landlady gave us a couch. Uh, we had camp chairs, we had like everything from scratch, old plates and stuff from our parents, and we just made it work. And it's like it's the thing again, like just make it work. It's sustainable. You're not having people over unless it's your family or whatever, or your friends. But if you're young, like people are gonna like your family, your friends are gonna understand that you're still building. But I think we have this mindset of like, no, we need to have everything. Um, as soon as we and it's like no, we can build from ground up as time goes, save or whatever, and then buy. So yeah, you make a valid point. Um, I think a question that I want to ask. I'm looking at my notes now.
yeah,
Well, I think a question, right? is why do you think our schools have never prioritized teaching money management? Now, I've been in school and haven't learned anything about finances, nothing how to manage money, nothing about taxes. Why do you think our schools don't manage or don't prioritize it? Um, yeah, I think that's the question. Why do you think they don't prioritize? I think obviously now you're getting into schools, but why do you think that is the case?
I think it's sad that we haven't evolved our curriculum. I've been talking to somebody about a month ago or so. Stuff that was taught 40 years ago, we're still doing it now.
Yes,
You know, and I'm not too sure what the actual politics behind all of that. But I think if we look at some of the service providers to schools, like the company like VALT that goes in there, teaches financial literacy, which should be part of a curriculum of a school.
yes,
Because what do? You're preparing the young person for the world. And financial management is crucial. It's fundamental to the
oh,
future
yeah.
of the wealth of the young individual. We go in and we teach business entrepreneurship. We know in South Africa, businesses start a business fail within the first 3 to 5 years. We know the entrepreneurship side of this country or businesses employ quite a high percentage. I think I heard a stats for Africa alone, 60% of people get employed by small businesses.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, I never knew that. 60%. That's huge.
it is.
We should be educating them. Listen, if the guy is not going to go and become a lawyer, an accountant, a auditor, if he's let's equip him and let him become an entrepreneur.
Yes,
So, I mean, that's crucial. And then we also teach emotional intelligence. So these life skills are fundamental for the well-being for the individual. And I have this discussion as well, Jared. If I just um, with entrepreneurship, people think if you go through entrepreneurship course,
Mr. T, what's
it
happening?
focuses on you becoming a businessman. Not true.
Sorry, Mr. T, you
My
just cut
bandwidth
out a
dropped.
bit. Um,
Is it right there? What happened?
just lagging a bit, I think.
On my
Okay, you're back now.
Sorry, I don't know why that happened.
It cut out when you said people do an entrepreneurship course. Yeah.
I think there's so much benefits to doing an entrepreneurship course. It's not only because I think I'll become a businessman one day, which is great, but it holds absolutely. So let's look at a business itself. It needs a marketing plan. It needs a budgeting plan. It needs a sales individual. So you take all those skills, and one day when I'm finished my degree, I join a company. I could be head of marketing. So the skill set you've learned as an entrepreneur becomes applicable in the corporate world. The other thing is that when a young person that currently presents their business models to us, they they start to speak well, it builds up confidence.
Yeah.
And imagine a 15-year-old child presenting his business skills at this level,
Yes.
sits in 8 years from now, sits in an interview, how much more stronger
Yes.
in terms of his communication skills. So there's a lot of benefits from that. So why the schools are not doing it, I battle to understand. And I'm hoping that as a company, we'll start to spearhead that. And probably, I think the better word for me is how do we partner with these schools
Yes. 100%.
that we can give a holistic approach to young individuals.
Yeah. I'm just thinking back to me being in high school and me being in English class and giving my orals. And I never enjoyed it. I never enjoyed being in front of the class. I never enjoyed the topics I'm speaking on. And I think if I had the opportunity to present a business idea to the classroom, something that I've came up with, I think the passion behind it would have been there, and then I would have presented it with a passion. But I think when we do orals and stuff, and I think it's still valid, but when we do it in regards to just doing it for the sake of doing it, it kind of defeats the purpose. And I think only when I finished high school did I actually become better at speaking in front of people. It wasn't in school and learning it, and that was the core of it is that's where you're supposed to learn it. But I've learned it outside of being in business meetings, being uh, in all these different scenarios where I have to grow my business, and and sometimes real life opportunities and skills has to be learned in real life situations or what should I say a simulation of what
Yes.
life should be. Um, my question would be for you in regards to schools and I think the future of South Africa and the future of our economy. Um, where do you see Vault playing a role in helping the economy? Because I do believe that, like we said, education, and if we educate the youth, that will obviously allow the future generation to manage their finances. We won't be living in debt, but we'll be pumping money into the economy. But where do you see Vault play a role in the future of South African economy?
Yeah, good, great question, Jared. I think this we do play a vital role, and and that's why I have this passion to see the youth turn around.
Yeah.
So if you look at the recent stats, unemployment stats, that is, we're still sitting very high. I think it's about 31%
Well, with
of
in regards to the youth, we the
60 odd plus. Yeah, so the
highest
youth
unemployment in
is,
the world. Yeah.
you know, for me, when you look at the youth, and if you look at the South African youth, they have so much of enthusiasm, so
Yeah.
much of passion, so much of drive, but they don't have the education. They
Yes.
don't have the mentorship to help and guide these kids to fulfill their dreams. And so I think if more companies could start looking at creating mentorships. Now, I think we're probably sitting about 30 million youth, or that figure could be higher.
Yes.
So there's enough room for everybody to make a mark.
Mm.
It's not about Vol trying to accomplish the entire South Africa. It's not practical. It's not possible. But I think when we started Vol, the whole emphasis was how do we educate them? How do we continue to mentor them? So it's not about just giving a student now, educating him on finance or on business, and then we disappear, we don't see them again. No, we've started at DHS in 2021. Fast forward 5 years later, 4 years later,
Yeah.
we're still having relationships with those students that sat in our first class in
Yes.
2021
Yeah.
because we want to follow that journey. And I think that's what I'm talking about, where you really invest. It's not about money. Yes, we're in business, we want to make money. If that was my mindset in the beginning, I don't think I'll be talking to you about
Yes.
Vault today.
Yeah.
Because we've been through the patches. We've been through, you've experienced it with us, Jared, the highs and the lows. Yes, we have this conversations around finances, but, it's a passion that drives it. And if we can invest in young people, and just not invest in them, investing is one part of that journey, but how do we manage them? How do we coach them? How do we mentor them to become that complete individual where his business is flying through the roof?
Yeah.
So I think we can play a vital role, and that's the model. Every other little business that I come across in collab, I speak the language. Let's get behind this generation.
Yeah.
You know, sorry, just to sidetrack a little bit. I was speaking to a parent the other day, and we look at this generation. Of course, they were irritated of something that happened in their family experience. I think it was some sort of crime. Okay, it's evident. Crime is high. We've heard the recent stats. It's high. South Africa is high. But what is the flip side of that, Jared? We've got a generation, and why is crime high? We have the highest unemployment. Which leads to that. A human needs to eat. So whatever, if his back is against the wall, he's going to do crazy stuff. But what is the positive side? How this group of kids, instead of complaining that they're hanging around the shopping malls, they're loitering around here, yes, they're there. But what are we doing for them? Our current government is not creating those opportunities. How can we, as small businesses, I heard a recent stat, and I started to talk to young people how we can get them involved. The recent stat, I was talking to a business guy at a business breakfast about a month ago. He said to us, if every business in South Africa, and this is like a shocking stat, and he's involved in politics and in business. Okay, KZN. So he's heavily involved. He's a numbers guy. He said the shocking stat is, guys, he said if every company in South Africa, big, small, medium, whatever size you are, if you employ one person, we are zero unemployment in this country.
Wow.
I said, what? He said, just employ one person. He said, we have zero unemployment. And if you look at that, and I think it's the thing going back, how do you change society? How do you change mindsets? How do you change things happening at school? It's one child at a time.
Yes.
You get to one person, and then one person gets to another, and that's how it goes. I think we sometimes see this huge problem, which is huge. As people always say, how do you eat an elephant? One bite size at a time.
Yeah.
And I think we have a crisis, but I think as companies we have the solution. So stop. I get upset when people talk roughly to young people. Oh, these bunch of hooligans, these bunch of kids don't know what they're doing in their lives. Of course they don't know what they're doing in their lives. Let's help them do something with their lives. Let's see it from a positive. If you live in South Africa, you have to get involved.
100%.
You either invest in their lives, you either coach them, you either mentor them. Get into the lives and stop complaining. I've seen that change happen. I've seen young lives turn around. I coached a guy yesterday. He wants to start a business. Yes, I'm helping him along. But it's having that mindset, Jared. If SMMEs, corporates can start saying, let's get behind this generation.
Yeah.
Just one more point on that. I'm against where companies throw large sums of monies to organizations to treat the fruit of problems. I'd rather spend at the root of the problem.
Yes.
We're not spending much money on the root. What do I mean by that? Example, let's take the typical example that faces South Africa off the topic of finance is gender-based violence.
Mm.
You do the research of gender-based violence, where it comes from, it's mainly predominantly finances.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's how it starts, because either the male or the female is not financially independent enough, so they stay in this abusive relationship. But if they were taught finances, how to create wealth and become independent individuals, I think we'll see a bit of a turnaround in the gender-based violence story, because a woman or a guy could say, I don't need to put up with this.
Yeah.
I'll get my own apartment, I'll move out, and let's. But they live in this abusive relation because of the lack of financial resources. So if there's huge companies and can invest money in student education, I think we'll definitely see a brighter future.
Sure. That's so powerful. I think as you're speaking on regards to if each company hires one person, I was just thinking back to I've met this company recently at Converge Africa. I forgot the company's name, but basically they are MPO, and what they do is they basically do a learnership with these students or whoever wants to be a part of it. And what they do is they place these students into companies, and when they place them into companies, the companies don't pay their salary. These guys will pay their salary for about 3 to 6 months so that they have a job experience. Because a lot of people don't get jobs because they lack the experience. So they allow them to work in these spaces. Companies get free employees for 3 to 6 months. and these guys get opportunities, and they can then take that into their next job or their applications and their CVs. So I think if we could do start organizations like that, start having these conversations. I think the main thing is that the lack of the conversation, and I think when we have conversations like what we're having now, and then it's having people then implementing based off the conversations. Yeah, I think coming back to, I think looking at my notes and stuff and coming back and seeing, let's go back to Vault, right? Let's go back to you being a financial advisor and then you leaving financial advising to then start a company that teaches financial literacy with Vault. Uh, what have you seen being the challenges of, sorry, uh, move it out for me. Okay, yeah. So starting Vault, right, from leaving financial advising to then moving into a full-time company, and moving away from getting a full-time salary, I think is a main aspect where a lot of people don't are scared to start their own business because the lack of stability. What was your challenges leaving a full-time job to then move into a running a full-time company and believing in that passion, believing in that vision, believing this will be a successful business? What are the challenges you faced? And how have you overcome them is the main thing.
Yeah, yeah. Tough but good question. I think for me, Jared, is that I've always had a passion. Right through my young adult life, working life, whatever role I played, um, be it in the corporate world, be it in church, it was always been that the bottom up kind of leader. How do you support people from the bottom
Yes.
that they can become better than you? So if you take when I was a production manager, how do you make people better? It's not about me being the boss. Yes, I am the boss, but how do you grow people that you can do less as a boss?
Yes.
Into religious church backgrounds, how do you strengthen and grow people? And I think when I was in the financial space, every time I met with people, their policies didn't tell a story. You could see there was some salesperson that went there and just sold a whole lot of products, and into my latter days, so which has been around about my 15 years in the industry, I already felt the need to start to step out of this. And the only way to change it is to start to educate people. So at that point in time, yes, we all need money to survive. We all think of driving fancy cars, living in beautiful homes. That was a space I went through. I drove brand new cars. I enjoyed that life, but I was not happy. I think it was more God doing something within me. It
Yeah.
was a God vision, and I had to sacrifice that lifestyle of living, that splashy lifestyle of living, to start the education journey. And so basically, you went from 100 to zero in terms of finances, and you stayed until build up. And I think so. It was tough being in that place, but I think passion just continues to grow, and the need. And you find that, yes, I'm thankful for friends and family around me to support me both financially, emotionally, and what the case might be, because they believed in Terence and believed in his vision. So the journey there, the transition has been tough, but if you look at year on year, life started to get better.
Mm,
I think a lot of people from the outside would not have seen it because they're not on the inside of things, so they wouldn't experience that growth. And I think, if you look at the start of 2025 as being one of the best startups for me
yes.
from a financial perspective, if we're just focusing on finances. But, so it's been 4 years of just keep plowing and plowing and plowing, and God suddenly opens up a door
Yes.
of a corporate company that I had no clue of.
Yes.
And I stuck there for 4 months, and it was paid very well for the job,
Yeah.
but the point I'm making is that you got to stick in there.
Yes.
If you're doing it for the money, then I think you have the wrong reason. if you're going into business to improve the lives of people, money will follow you.
Yeah.
It might be tough, it'll follow you, and it'll be long lasting
Mm. Mm.
because you have the right intention.
Yes.
You're not here to make a quick buck, you're here to make quick growth in people.
Yes.
When people see growth, they'll brag about you. They'll brag about you to their friends, they'll brag about you to their families, they'll brag about you to their business colleagues. That's how I get business now, because people bragging, hey,
Yeah.
need to chat to Terence, need to chat to Terence, get to the school,
Yeah.
get to this company.
Sure.
And I think getting that heart and the mindset right. I've always, people find it difficult to understand, but, and you, no, money you can make today, you
Yeah.
can lose it tomorrow, you know, but it's your integrity that will carry you through. It's your honesty, your transparency.
Yeah.
Yes, that grows in us. Now, people might say, but Terence, you were not honest 5 years ago. Yeah, probably not. But probably not better now than what I was five back then. We're all growing. So it's not that we sit here and look all like angels, but we're growing. And I think let's get the mindset right. And that's when I talk about, I meet with young people and I spend a half an hour just to help them a little bit. I'm not going to build a kid.
Yeah.
He's got no money to go home. He can't even get a taxi back home. But he appreciates the value that you're pouring into their lives. Yes, when I meet with the business guy, I'll bill him, and I'll bill him for that guy I spent half an hour with.
Yeah.
But it's there is ways of how to do that. I think I'm not. I think I'll probably veer off track, but for me is being consistent. Let the passion drive you. Don't be driven by money.
Yeah.
Be driven by the need to see people grow.
Yeah. Do you know the story of the
And
bamboo tree?
yes, it
Yeah.
lies there. Eh?
As you speaking, I'm thinking of the story of the bamboo tree and of uh, there's this Chinese guy that's planting a bamboo tree and he keeps watering every single day and coming back and these guys are around him were like there's nothing happening like you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
And the story with the bamboo is that eventually 5 years past, every single day he's watering this bamboo tree, and nothing's happening. And then one day he comes and he just sees this thing just shoot up. And the thing is, people don't see you watering that bamboo tree for 5 years. They just see the bamboo tree when it comes up. And I think that's with you and you pushing through the hardships of like this isn't gonna work. Like people saying it's not gonna work, but you're pushing through and seeing that um, you see the vision, you see the end goal, and you see that God has given you this God-given vision, and you're holding on to the word that He's given you, and you're holding on to that, and we can see the benefits of it. Uh, sure, it's very inspiring because I think we live in a generation where we so dopamine fixated, where we want it in the then and now. And
Yeah.
for us to then say we putting time and effort into something that we can't see or receive the benefits of now, it's so hard. Uh, what advice would you give to someone that like that's been struggling with like I see failure now and I don't see like the success. I don't see. I know the end goal, but it's so hard to see me achieving it now. What advice would you give that person?
Tough, tough question.
Yeah.
For me is the advice to those individuals that feel themselves in that position. There's always a way out of that situation, and I think the only way you're going to get out of that situation is by making sure that your inner circle is clean, pure, and tight.
Wow.
What do I mean? It's your circle of friends. Who you hanging with, hanging around with? Who are you spending time with? Who are you reaching out to? You know, uh, Example, a kid wants to do some research. You know, hang around the right people. People will invite you to their coffee shops, invite you to their homes, use up my data, do the research, get your life organized, find out what you want to do, grow, listen to some YouTube content, grow yourself. So I think that's like I said that early on, Jared. I think we seem to have this mindset of complaining.
Wow.
We don't have a mindset of opportunities.
Yes.
I come across young people consistently throughout my weekends, and I love the approach that says, "Sir, I need some
Mm.
help."
Wow.
Great, come, let's rally around you. Let's give you the support you need. If I don't have it, I will find somebody to be with you, because that's what we need to hear more and more and more.
Yeah.
I want to study. Yes, I might not have the finances to send you to university, but let's start you off on doing basic stuff. What do you want to do? I want to study architecture or IT. Let's go onto YouTube.
Yeah.
Come on, go to this coffee shop there. I'll get you a coffee. Use the Wi-Fi, and do those little YouTube stuff they teach you on these. So start. There's a starting point.
Yeah.
So I think if people like myself that are out there, start taking young people under your wing.
Yeah.
Start to mentor them. And that's the only way you're going to change the nation. And the reason why I say this, Jared, is I've got two young adult boys. If I don't do something now as a parent to see the future of this country change, my grandchildren will experience what I'm experiencing now in this country, or even worse.
Mm.
So it's not about me right now. And it's we that are adults now think futuristically thinking. My grandkids are going to live in South Africa. What does that South Africa look like?
Yeah.
I'm dead and gone. But how can I contribute to a better South Africa?
Yeah.
So, and that's why I keep saying we need to don't write off this generation,
Yes.
because we'll end up like the rest of Africa if we do not do something now and change that mindset. So, yeah, just get behind young people.
Yeah.
If you want
That's
to change the future of your country, make sure that your grandkids
yes.
live a better life.
Yeah.
You've got to do it. You got to do it. Otherwise, go to Europe or first world countries. Now, if you're one that wants to stay here and they can't afford to go abroad,
Yes.
let's make it better for them here.
Yeah. I had Mwanda on the first podcast, and he was talking about instead of seeing the disadvantage, see it as an opportunity with South African.
Yes.
That, like, there's so much of disadvantage, but like there's so much of opportunity based off this. And you see what you're saying is 100% correct. Um, and I just want to move over to Vault and again, like, where do you see Vault in the next 3 years? I think it's a tough question in regards to that, but I think it's your desire for Vault. Where do you see Vault in the next 3 years? And I think based off that, what are you guys working on Vault right now? And if people want to get involved with Vault, how can they?
Oh, great. Well, I think we had to do a reset just after COVID. You know, basically we had to reset in 2023, um, and and to answer your question, the next sort of 3 to 5 years, I really love Vault to be to be very active in Johannesburg and in Cape Town in schools, and then probably go to the other provinces, because I really see the schools as a gold mine. I really see the schools of great opportunities, and I think schools is the best place to start this type of education.
Yeah.
And if we can start there and then filter off, remember these kids then go off to universities,
Yes.
and we can still keep the relationship strong. So I'm really seeing a net that covers South Africa. Vault is not uh, threatened by any other organization. No matter how long you've been in financial services, no matter how well you do. But I believe we have a unique curriculum, a unique design. I think we have a beautiful dream, and we are very intentional. We have longevity on that point. We're not an events company. We don't come in there and do a one-day event and
Yeah.
say, cheers, thank you for all your money, and we're gone. We are longevity. So we build with you. We are relationally strong.
Yeah.
and I love to see that net keep growing, and we love to collaborate.
Mm.
And I'm meeting people almost every other week at business meetings, and they're all involved with youth, and which is fantastic.
100%.
I don't have that skill. I can't do wellness from a health medical perspective.
Yeah.
I met a doctor yesterday. That's a heart. She wants to do that. So I think if we can start to collaborate with different organizations that are targeting the same market, I think we will start to see a better future, a better generation come through.
Yeah.
And I'm going to challenge all these organizations out there that have the passion on youth is we're not in competition. I will never ever be in competition. I didn't start it as a competition, and I never will be as a competition.
Yeah.
I really believe collaborate. As I said, there's 30 plus million young people in our country. So let's get the work done.
Yes.
Let's embrace this youth. Let's embrace this generation.
Yeah.
See that change happen. So yeah. So Vault, yeah, 3 to 5 years, all the provinces creating a nice network of people involved with schools. I love to see us going on to the universities and keep growing the curriculum to reach those goals.
Awesome. Is there any projects that you have coming up soon? Any webinars?
Yeah, I think I'm very excited. So we June is declared a youth month, and then we want to capitalize on that, and hence we going to have a webinar coming up in the first week of July. It's June month, but we're having in July. The reasons for that: a lot of youth, senior teens, and university students are in the middle of exams, and yes, we want them to pass well, and we don't want to interrupt their studies. So hence, we are hosting it the first week of July. Means exams will be over, and the whole drive behind that is how do we again change that narrative. In 1976 was the Soweto uprising for better education. How can we make that legacy more positive or let it have a greater impact by standing on the backs of those people's lives,
Mm.
and let's become better humans. Let's become better people and say thank you for the sacrifice you've made, sacrificing your lives, that today we are financially strong, we are becoming strong entrepreneurs, we're becoming emotionally solid, and that's the focus on that is basically how do we create wealth, become wealth creators.
Yeah.
And we want to be the forefront of that and be able to say, a lot of people speak about investing. A lot of people, yeah, on social media, stocks, cryptos. And I'm yet to see someone says, let me help you to create liquidity
Yeah.
so you can start investing. So I'm
100%.
hoping the webinar that happens the first week of July will draw thousands of young people to this platform to
Yeah.
say, it's let's get educated, let's get empowered, and how we can create wealth for ourselves.
Awesome. Cool. Guys, if you guys want to get involved in the webinar, I think I'll put a link down in the description of where you can find Vault, social media platforms. But again, thank you, Terence, for being on the podcast. I think we'll have you on more often. I think there's a lot of information, a lot of value that you give to South Africans and the platform, and I think maybe we can get you and Tim on one podcast together. Maybe that would be an awesome experience.
Will be.
But yeah, thank you again, guys. Make sure you do follow Vault on all platforms. If you guys want to do get involved, or you guys want to get Vault to come into your company and just help and facilitate your employees' finances or into that type of stuff. Just I'll leave Terence's email address. But yeah, guys, make sure you like, subscribe. Anything else you want to add, Terence?
No, I think it just as you welcoming guys, I think to the youth out there as well,
Yes.
is reach out. You're not alone.
Yes.
Reach out, and let us help you and get you to where you need to get to. and let's make a better South Africa for all of us to live and enjoy.
Yeah. Awesome.
But thanks, Jared, at the time.
Thanks, Terence. Have a good one. Thanks, guys. Thanks
Yeah.
for watching. Subscribe. Bye.
Bye.